Thank you. Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm going to call to order tonight's meeting of our Housing Authority for the City of Salem for Monday, December 12th, 2022. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Nishioka.
Here.
Vice Chair Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Leung.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Hoy.
Here.
Commissioner Nordyke.
Here.
Commissioner Varney.
Here.
Chair Stapleton.
I'm here. Thank you. All right. Councilor Phillips, would you mind doing the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight?
Yes, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. All right. Do we have any additions or deletions, Councilor Phillips?
Not tonight.
I think I'm supposed to be calling you Commissioner. I apologize. All right. We have nobody signed up for public comment today. Do we have a motion for the consent calendar?
Yes. I move the consent calendar.
Second.
I'll second.
Great.
And
yeah, go ahead and let us know what we got here.
yeah, so the consent calendar tonight consists of 3.1A, which is the November draft Salem Housing Authority minutes. And that concludes the consent calendar.
All right. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could we please call the roll?
Commissioner Leung.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoy.
Aye.
Commissioner Nordyke.
Aye.
Commissioner Varney.
Aye.
Commissioner Nishioka.
Aye.
Vice Chair Phillips.
Aye.
Chair Stapleton.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. We have no public hearings and we have no special orders of business. So we're just right on to our information reports. We have Nicole Oots here with us. Would you mind just giving us a download? You gave us a wonderful report. So much good information here. And I would love to hear from you. And then I'm sure there are questions that other commissioners have.
Good evening, I'm Nicole Yates. I'm the Housing Administrator for Salem Housing Authority. And we really tried hard to pull as many stats and data together for this report to end off the year to try to capture some of what we do at this agency in between the amount of people and the amount of dollars that are coming and going out of here on any given time. We hope in the future to make continued improvements to the program management report, and we will certainly hoping to improve with our added staffing, our capabilities to communicate this information out to the public much easier and on a regular basis. So we thought we'd end the year on a good recap of some of the great highlights of this year, as well as just a couple of things from recently. We were involved in Shop with a Cop over the weekend. And our agency was able to send 380 of our littlest clients to Shop with a Cop and attend. We were added into an additional 50 right at the end towards the event, and we offered those 50 to Church at the Parks, family sheltering sites, and to Center for Hope and Safety so they could join us for the first year at this event as well. It was an exciting, great day, and we appreciate all the law enforcement agencies that participated in this event. I also wanted to let everybody know that in Oregon, there's been a 14.6% rent increase authorization through the state of Oregon. This rent increase is drastically impacting individuals who reside or do not have assistance to pay for their rental costs. We have drastically seen a rate of email, phone calls to our agencies for help and assistance, and to put a capture into what that equals out. If an individual is currently paying $1,500 in rent, their rent is potentially raising up by another $219. This is after a 9.9% increase last year. This is something that is becoming very apparent as those notices are starting to hit the clients. Since this can go into effect January 1, those notices started going out as early as November to meet the 60-day requirement. The Salem Housing Authority does not have rapid rehousing assistance or rental assistance to help on a short-term basis for this. And unfortunately, our Section 8 waiting lists are closed. This is making it very difficult for some families to make ends meet currently. We are asking that individuals seek 211 assistance from any cell phone or any landline. They can get the latest information on where resources can help with that as well. On another good highlight, the windows did arrive for Uquina Hall, and we are very excited. They were well worth the wait. They're beautiful windows, and they'll be a beautiful addition to this project. It's a very slow goal of installation of about 6, I think we're up to 7 windows a day, and we have 90 some windows in this project. So, but the top floor is currently looking wonderful. So if you get a chance to drive by it, many of our hard surfaces, pervious surfaces, and our windows, it's really starting to take shape, and we're excited to hopefully get a grand opening event the end of March, early April.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful news about the windows. I can't wait. I'll definitely try and fit that in and squeeze over to see that. That has been really long in the waiting. So I'm very happy for you and your team. That sounds really great. I think that there is so much information here that really highlights just what Salem Housing Authority does to not only address the emergency needs of our unsheltered folks on the daily basis, but helping keep people in their housing, helping people find housing, and even developing housing like what you're doing really in all parts of the city. So thank you for all of your work. Does anybody here have any questions for Ms. Newts? Yeah, Commissioner Leon.
Thank you. I actually don't have a question, but more of a big thank you once again, Director Oots, for the amount of work that you've done. Thank you also for the tour that you gave me to Uquina Hall about a week and a half ago. It was a really wonderful opportunity to kind of see how things were looking and how they're changing. I've updated a little bit about some of the things that's going on my Facebook page, but I also recognize not everyone is on social media, but this is a wonderful way to actually tell and inform people about all the different projects that the Salem Housing Authority is doing. And can't give you enough credit. And you know what I really appreciate too is you sharing like a little bit about your personal narrative with me, which I'm not going to share within this space because that's your story to tell. But I really thank you for the amount of work that you've done in transforming what it looks like for our city to be able to help the unsheltered community, and trying to think of creative ways to increase the number of affordable housing, especially with like the amount of rent that we're seeing increase for households. It's gotten to the point where, you know, people are being priced out. You know, I've rented long enough here in Salem to see that price go up. Like an apartment that I've lived in for 6 years, the price keeps going up every year, but they're not doing anything to it. They tried, the management tried to, you know, encourage everybody to update their inside of their buildings, but when you did that, they then increased your rent even more. So we were like really resistant to doing that because we knew what it meant, and so we were able to eventually be eligible for a home, which I'm grateful for. But for the countless others who are not able to or can't even afford to buy a home, but then they're paying astronomical prices for rent. So I'm glad that you're being very creative in how we could continue helping people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nordyke.
Thank you so much. I certainly echo your comments and the comments of my other colleague, Commissioner Leon. Ms. Utes, great work per usual. I did have a few questions for you about the program management report. Let me see, I'm looking through it specifically now to find the question I was looking at. Yes, page 2 of your report says preservation efforts have started at 2 senior affordable housing site locations. What do you mean by preservation efforts?
Certainly. Again, Nicole Utes, Salem Housing Authority. The preservation efforts, so we are just in the beginning stages. We have the multiple affordable housing projects that are going on, but we also are always looking to preserve our current affordable housing stock. So currently we're doing capital needs assessments at 2 of our senior sites that they're post 15-year low-income housing tax credits, and they're owned outright by Salem Housing Authority. And they're reaching an age where we need to look at all of the assets and features of the building to ensure that the longevity. When we go into affordable housing, our goal is to remain that affordable housing provider, but we have to maintain those buildings in good working order and condition. So the capital needs assessment is actually inspecting every single unit in the building, all of the systems, all of the carpeting, all of the vinyl, everything about it, to give us a report and a determination if we potentially need to apply for future low-income housing tax credits to preserve the integrity of the buildings long-term for the seniors that live in them. So we have 2 sites that we're currently doing that. As Commissioner Leung says, we're always very conscious of this because this causes heightened anxiety when we start doing these efforts. So we didn't list the exact properties in this report for that reason, because we do not want to create any anxiety, because when we make these efforts and we do preserve them, whether we go in to re-syndicate them for tax credits or we are able to do it operationally, we don't want people to feel like that's going to be an automatic rent increase into their rentals. So that is the reason for the 2 projects not being specifically listed in this form.
Thank you. My next question had to do with the HUD Moving to Work demonstration program. Your report has given us the teaser trailer. Are there any other sneak peeks we can get into what the Moving to Work program is and how that will help folks in the Salem area?
Certainly. So Moving to Work demonstration is one of the highest regards for the housing and urban development and for housing authorities to achieve. This basically breaks down the silos of funding. We're currently, each one of our sections is very siloed for public housing funds, for Section 8 funds, for capital funding programs. Everything is down to a very, what we call AMP based or asset management based. Mm-hmm. And that kind of removes all of those silos, allowing for agencies to use that funding over the different programs and to achieve more innovative ways to provide housing in a community. This is an asset building cohort, so we will be working with a HUD pilot project, which will allow for us to help them gain insight by us providing a $25 savings program each month for a certain number of the residents, to see how that assists them into being able to stabilize and meet their needs when a crisis comes up, such as a car repair, the unexpected medical bills, the additional school supplies, and keep them from falling out of housing or being able to continue to maintain housing by having this savings program. We will be bringing forth a lot more information over the course of 2023. Our agency is currently going through a software conversion, which means all of our databases that we run off of is being updated at the same time we've achieved this moving to work. So all of our financial data will hopefully cohesively start making that merge in 2023. And we will be bringing a lot of public and requesting public input into what our agency is doing and how that is affected by moving to work. And likely that'll begin as early as 2023 with some presentations to the Commission.
Thank you. And Commissioner Stapleton, I just had one final comment, if I may. I saw in OPB a list of cities around the state that are quote unquote severely rent burdened, which has a designation from the statewide Oregon Housing and Community Services. Severely rent burdened means 25% of the city's renters or more spend over 50% of their income on rent. And I saw that unfortunately there are 25 cities across the state that get that severely rent burden designation, including the city of Salem. So I say with great urgency how important your work is, and please let us know how we as commissioners can support you, because it's a shame that the city of Salem has joined that list, but I know that you guys and your entire team are working around the clock to assist with that. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. If counselors do get inquiries about things like the rent increases, is it something that we could send over to you to kind of help. I know I've gotten a couple of them that I've forwarded to you for just help. I don't know the numbers of folks or places that people can call to get help, and I rely on you for that. But is that the best way forward if counselors get communications from their constituents?
Absolutely. You can continue to send those my direction, and we are trying to staff it, but understanding that I have a ton of new staff that are in training, it does take us a little bit longer with the amounts that are coming in onto our mainline email and phones. There is obviously a very big need, and we're trying to get those answered as quickly as possible. Our agency, unfortunately, is not one who can immediately assist, and we are making referrals to the appropriate agencies that can help with that as quickly as they can. I'm sure they're receiving many phone calls as well. I just wanted to alert everybody as to why there is such a huge increase in this impact and what it's being felt throughout our community.
Great, thank you. And I will let the other commissioners know I've been working with staff to try and get a PowerPoint that kind of goes into detail a little bit about, just kind of briefly, because you all do so much, but briefly what the Salem Housing Authority does and the different definitions for the different affordability that we all commonly talk about. What is affordable housing? What is workforce housing? And hopefully you all can share that at your community events and your neighborhood meetings, so that we can start getting all on the same page as far as what is affordable housing and how are we all going to contribute to making this better. What are we doing already to make it better? And so I'm hopeful that that will be ready at the beginning of the year, maybe January or February. So be looking for that. And Commissioner Nishioka.
Thank you, Commissioner Stapleton. I wanted to echo what you were just saying. At every city council meeting, people are asking, how is housing going? How can we find affordable housing? And I'm also getting, probably because rent rates are going up and up, and as Commissioner Nordyke pointed out, how rent burden many cities are, they're asking what happens when they get pushed out, where do they go? And so I'm grateful that there's many constituents that care about their other citizens and want to at least understand what's happening and maybe even how they can help them or how council can help them. So this information that we're asking, it will be very helpful. It's not only to allow each of us to understand what's happening, but to be able to explain that to people that are often asking questions. So thank you. And I want to say that the program report was wonderful, and I will probably pull a lot of this at my next meeting so I can at least highlight all the hard work you have done. So thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to say also our goal is to attend neighborhood associations, as many of them that we can get in probably the first quarter of January, so that we can start help answering these questions in person by whether it's me or one of the new assistant housing administrators. They're all committed to making sure that we can help in educating the community on the work that Salem Housing Authority does.
Thank you. May I have just one quick comment again on that? I so appreciate that, Nicole, because even though we might be getting this information, I think coming directly from your department would be far more educational and beneficial than having it come secondhand. So I appreciate that. I will look forward to attending and even getting better information. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I don't even know not even in the beginning of all the things that you do. So I appreciate your expertise. Commissioner Leung.
Thank you. One other thing I just wanted to add, Director Utz, if it's possible, do you or your team go to, like, if a community organization wanted to invite you to come and talk about housing, is that something your team will do? And if so, are those in person, virtual, or depends on availability?
All of the above. Certainly, we make every effort to attend any community event that we're requested to come and speak about Salem Housing Authority. we find those to be very enlightening, not only for our audience, but for our staff as well, for us to learn on and where gaps in the community are, or where maybe our next innovation and creative project maybe needs to come from.
Thank you.
Great. All right, I don't see any more hands, but I will say to you, Nicole, please pass along our gratitude and thanks to your staff. Wishing them happy holidays. I hope that they get a break in there. And we as a commissioner are so looking forward to next year and all of the great work that we're going to do together. So please communicate our gratitude for them and all their work. It'd be really great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening. I will call this meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency for the City of Salem for Monday, December 12th, 2022 to order. The recorder will please call the roll.
Board Member Stapleton.
I'm here.
Board Member Nishioka.
Here.
Board Member Phillips.
Here.
Board Member Leung.
Here.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Here.
Board Member Hoy.
Here.
Board Member Nordyke.
Here.
Board Member Varney.
Here.
Chair Hoy.
Here. Thank you. Councilor Stapleton, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Not tonight.
Thank you. We have nobody signed up for public comment for the Urban Renewal Agency. Councilor Stapleton, the consent calendar.
Thank you. I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. The consent calendar tonight consists of item 3.1A, that is the November 28th, 2022 draft Urban Renewal Agency minutes. Item 3.2A, minor amendment to Urban Renewal Area Plans for Fairview, McGillcrest, Mill Creek Industrial Park, North Gateway, Riverfront Downtown, South Riverfront, and West Salem. And 3.2B, which is a transfer of fiscal year 2023 appropriations to create transfer authority in the Gain Loss Revenue Fund. And that concludes our consent calendar.
Is there any further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Nishioka.
Aye.
Board Member Phillips.
Aye.
Board Member Leung.
Aye.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Aye.
Board Member Hoy.
Aye.
Board Member Nordyke.
Aye.
Board Member Varney.
Aye.
Board Member Stapleton.
Aye.
Chair Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. We are then on to public hearings. We have none. Special orders of business. We have none. Information reports. We have none. Seeing no further business before the Urban Renewal Agency, we are adjourned. And now I will call this final meeting of 2022 of the Salem City Council for Monday, December 12th, 2022 to order. If the recorder will please call the roll.
Councilor Stapleton.
Here.
Councilor Nishioka.
Here.
Councilor Phillips.
Here.
Councilor Leung.
Here.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilor Hoy.
Here.
Councilor Nordyke.
Here.
Councilor Varney.
Here.
Mayor Hoy.
Here. Councilor Stapleton, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda or revisions?
Yes, we do. I move approval of additions and deletions to the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We've got a few things going on. We've reordered the agenda. We moved the police report from information reports up to presentations. We renumbered the agenda to allow space for our year-end report, and we have removed the last slide from our year-end report as well.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Leung.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, on to council and city manager comment. I'm going to start by just talking about a couple of things that we've done recently. On Friday, I and Council President Stapleton, City Manager Staley, and our planning administrator, Lisa Anderson Ogilvy, and our historic preservation manager, I think is her title, I'm not sure her exact title, Kimberly Fitzgerald, had the distinct pleasure to travel to Siletz, Oregon, and visit with the Tribal Council of the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. And we had spent a great afternoon with them, learning all sorts of things about their culture and the great initiatives that they have going. And I think it was definitely time well spent. It was really an important time to deepen our relationship with the Confederated Tribe. And we invited them to Salem sometime in the coming months to show them around Salem as well, and to share some of the things. Specifically, they wanted to talk about housing and affordable housing and some of the different initiatives that we're doing. So we look forward to inviting them here to Salem and showing the members of the Tribal Council around our city and some of the great things we're doing. So that was a really a wonderful thing that we did on Friday. I really enjoyed that. Also, for those who are watching, this is our last fully remote meeting of the Salem City Council. When we reconvene in January, we will be back in council chambers. We will be offering a hybrid solution to those who need to testify and or attend remotely. So that will be an option. All of those things are still in the works in terms of the technology and everything. So bear with us in January when we come back together, because we will need some patience for sure. But I'm really excited for City Council to be able to get back together in person. I think that's going to be a great thing. And one more transition that I want to talk about. Transitions can be bittersweet, and this one certainly is. Tonight, we say thank you and goodbye to Councilor Jackie Leong from Ward 4. This is her final city council meeting with us. She has served the Salem City Council and the residents of Ward 4 and the entire city for the last 4 years. And this is often thankless work. And Jackie has given it her all, I know, to do the best job she can representing her neighbors in Ward 4. And we are so appreciative of everything you have given to the city. I know Council President Stapleton, City Manager Staley, and I will meet with you tomorrow to, in person, give you a symbol of our thanks. But I wanted to mention it tonight and just say thank you for your service to City Council, Jackie. So thank you, Councilor Leong. We will miss you. And with that, I will start down the line. Looks like we have Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. I wanted to take a moment to offer a thank you, a message of thanks to Nelson Morales and the code compliance team. They answered a cry to help just a couple of blocks from the Capitol building, where a whole bunch of stuff was going on that was not good for neighbors. And I know it can't happen like this every time, but boy, did the planets align and everybody came together. And between the compliance officers and the cleanup crew and the property management company, they were able to take care of a great big mess and make things safe for our neighbors. So kudos go out to them. Another note of thanks to Gretchen Bennett with the SOS team and to Tammy Carpenter in the office, who helped me to navigate what to do when an issue came to my attention. So I appreciate them, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you for highlighting that really important work. I, along with you, had the opportunity to chat with Nelson on Saturday when we were out planting a tree in Lansing Park for Patty Tipton Day. And he was talking to us about some of the backstory. And it was certainly, you're right, the planets aligned, and that was a great thing. So thank you for that. Councilor Leong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's a few things I just wanted to touch upon. This is Jackie Young, City Councilor, Ward 4. First and foremost, to all residents who are watching tonight, make sure you actually take a good look at page 11 of the City Council meeting agenda. If you look at there, it shows upcoming public hearings and upcoming work sessions. You'll notice that starting beginning in January, we're going to be starting our budget committee hearings, our sessions. I won't be on council by then, but the new councilor-elect, all your fellow councilors who are on here will be on there. So make sure you hold them accountable to what decisions are being made. Second, I want to say a big thank you to city staff, including Fire Chief Nyblock, as well as Interim Public Works Director Brian Martin, for responding to my email about community concerns about the closure of Landau Avenue Southeast connecting to Battle Creek. And there were concerns about emergency personnel access, but most of all, access in general, because it wasn't supposed to be shut down. And thankfully, they were able to reopen it. And so now it's my understanding is that Landau is not supposed to be closed off until the connector street off of Battle Creek connects to Soapstone. Next thing, if residents are still looking for some family-friendly activities, Salem Public Library has a ton that are coming up this week. I saw, for example, if you have a teenager, there's a painting activity this coming Tuesday. If you have young children, there is both English and Spanish reading, storybook activities, just like opportunities to kind of get out and just explore the downtown as well as our library. Holidays. Holiday lights, we're seeing more being put on display. If you're looking for a place to go, you want to go to our neighbor in Kaiser, go drive onto Kaiser lights, and you want to stay local. Please, again, be mindful when you're driving. Watch out for people, especially young children and other animals who may dart across the streets. Please also watch your speed. We've received lots of complaints from people who are informing us that people are speeding. Follow the speed limit. Keep everyone safe by following the rules. And last, I want to take a moment to reflect upon what I wanted to say as my last meeting as your city councilor. You know, when I ran for city council, I ran on the premise that council would make decisions that prioritize our community, not just one type of community, but all communities, and one based on our growing city, including recognizing that we're having multiple areas of development. First, a big, huge thank you to my colleagues, the ones who sit perform with me today, and those who have since finished their time on council. You've inspired me then, and you inspire me today to continue pursuing advocacy. Councilor Nordyke, thank you for believing in me and supporting me through times. Councilor Phelps, for your passion and continued advocacy for recognizing healthcare as a human right. To Mayor Hoy, thank you for your patience and energy when you were council president. To now Councilor/President Stapleton, for your guidance and for now taking the helm as council president. Councilors Gonzalez, Varney, Hoy, and also Councilor Gwen, who will be taking over. While I did not have an opportunity to engage with you as much as I would have liked, I hope your goal is centered on your values and the people who elected you to office and not special interests. To city staff, Gretchen Bennett, Nicole Utz, Tammy Carpenter, Eunice Kim, thank you to the four of you specifically for your hard work. There are no words I could say to you other than that without you, the city wouldn't be where it is today. To our city manager, Keith Stahi, thank you. You know, you've been now over 100 days on the job, and the change that you're making for the city leave me feeling excited to know that we're moving in a direction that makes sense for our priorities. To my family for putting it with my nights and days when council was in person, and even when it's virtual and you can all see life happening around behind me. You know, so this was a wonderful way for me to actually showcase that it's a matter of where you are and who you are as a person, whether you are a working person, whether you're a parent, whether you're a single parent, you know, we all can be on city council and still balance all these different priorities within our lives. And most importantly, to the residents of Salem and by extension, residents of Ward 4, my supporters, thank you for the opportunity to serve as your counselor for the past 4 years. I've had a chance to grow with you, and by extension, you got to see my family, like my youngest, who I wore as a baby, baby wore for nearly 5 months on city council, got to see him grow with me. Now, city councilors are unpaid volunteers. While this is meant to be a part-time position, at times this position feels like it's full-time. 4 years ago, I ran on a platform that called for protecting open space for recreation, which is essential for health reasons. I campaigned for the lack of facilities in city parks and missing playgrounds in apartment complexes. I even advocated asking council to consider back in September of 2017, the child-friendly city resolution that we passed back then, or city at the time, the city council at the time passed, especially as we move forward. I believe in this today. As a mother, a daughter, a granddaughter, and as a resident of Salem, I urge you all to continue to hold our councilors accountable. You voted for us for a reason. Make sure we're held accountable to the standards of elected officials and that we vote for the best interests of many instead of the best interests of a few. Pay attention to who is most vocal and why. And above all, don't forget that decisions you make today impact us. It may not be immediate, but these decisions can be felt within 5 years, even within 10 years. I'm not going to disappear into the night. I'm still going to be active in many ways. For example, I've already applied for a position with the Planning Commission. So I'm going to be busy one way or another. 4 years come quickly. And who knows, maybe in 4 years, I will sit before you again as a city councilor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. We really appreciate all of your work and your kind words. Thank you so much. Councilor Phillips.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Mayor Hoy, and congratulations on an outstanding term, Councilor Leung. Powerful words tonight. Thank you for your service. So I'll try to keep my pretty typical reminder to the public short tonight. Again, my name is Trevor Phillips, Councilor for Ward 3, and my career is that I'm an emergency room doctor here in the community. We are continuing to experience a very significant flu season, but we could continue to really benefit from your help. Please get your flu shot. And if you haven't already, get vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and boosted for COVID-19. Vaccines are available for kids 5 and up in terms of boosting, and 6 months and up for a full series of vaccines for COVID. We haven't peaked yet. This is as stressful at any point during the pandemic in terms of number of patients with viral symptoms presenting to hospitals. So anything you can do to help us in the front line is greatly appreciated. I would also encourage and empower community members to use their best judgment. It's okay to wear masks in public, especially if you're symptomatic. It's okay to stay home if you've got a fever. We're really relying on all of us to do the right thing right now to keep businesses and schools open and to keep all of us moving forward. But it is challenging right now at this moment. Hopefully things peak within the next few weeks or month so we can start to enjoy the rest of our winters. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Leung, you will be missed. Thank you so much for your service and your tireless support of so many important projects to our city. You've shown a real light on the lived experiences behind homelessness. You bring compassion on issues like domestic violence. And I so appreciate your support for projects such as mobile crisis units for our city. So thank you so much. I will miss working with you. And I also look forward to working with your successor on council as well. This is a season of change, and I'm looking forward to next steps and to serving with all of my peers on council with integrity. All right, a couple comments I want to make. First of all, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce today. They put on a terrific forum on nonprofit leadership today. We heard from some extraordinary leaders at places like United Way, Family Building Blocks, the YMCA, Liberty House, Isaacs and Ike Box, and more. This was a really wonderful event, and I apologize I'm not able to remember everything that we discussed today. But the Chamber also gave an award to a number of individuals who helped organize the Salem Holiday Parade, which was a huge success. The Chamber estimated that about 8,000 people showed up to that holiday parade. And I'm already looking forward to next year. And I encourage my peers, reach out, let them know if you liked what you saw this year, and if you'd like it to be bigger and better next year, please let Salem Main Street Association know. I, for one, will be doing what I can to support this event next year. Next, as for council meetings coming back to the Chamber, I remember when we used to meet in person, and I look forward to being able to convene those meetings in person. However, I'm so pleased that we are retaining this hybrid option. It is not just because sometimes I've had to appear at a council meeting from a hotel room, because I had business outside of the city of Salem. But I know that for caregivers, working parents, persons with physical conditions, the option to appear remotely is no longer just a preference. It is essential. And it has also been normally, it's no longer a preference in the workplace. It is essential as a recruitment tool and a retention tool for modern workplaces everywhere. So I, for one, am thrilled that we are retaining that hybrid option, because we know that for some folks, the idea of driving to a council meeting, scrambling to find parking, and then waiting 2 hours to give your 3 minutes of testimony is not an attractive deal. So retaining the option for people to give testimony remotely, I think, ensures that we will have engagement from folks for whom appearing remotely is not just a preference. It is really the only way that some people can effectively engage with government. So grateful to see the hybrid option going forward for folks to engage according to their preference, their schedules, and their responsibilities. So thank you so much. And one other thing, I'm so looking forward to the year in review tonight. I will say that when I joined council, I knew that affordable housing was mission critical. And as I stated at our Salem Housing Authority meeting earlier tonight, which you can find on YouTube as well if you want to clue into that, our Salem Housing Authority is working extremely hard to address the shortage of affordable housing in Salem. With all that being said, the city of Salem is one of 25 cities around the state of Oregon that is severely rent burdened, meaning that at least 25% of our renters spend about 50% or more of their hard-earned income just for the privilege of living indoors. So I point this out because while we have done a lot to increase the number of affordable units, adding about 400 units this year alone, if I'm not mistaken, we still have a lot more to do. And I also encourage folks to go to my Facebook page. I'll be posting updates on everything we've been doing for affordable housing this year, because this is very top of mind for people in my neighborhoods. They want to know what the city is doing to close the gap. And I want to continue to share that information. So I will be posting highlights from what we've been up to in affordable housing this year on my Facebook page, which is Salem City Councilor Vanessa Nordyke. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the rest of our meeting.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you so much. I have a number of things that I wanted to say. First of all, I wanted to follow up on what Councilor Phillips said. And that is, if you do have a fever, I would love it if y'all just stayed home. That would be really great. It's okay. I know it was an adjustment for us to kind of go from powering through and showing up anyway to recognizing that we don't want to get our neighbors sick, our coworkers sick. So please, I know it's spreading like wildfire out there, so please take care of yourselves. Two, I wanted to thank Councilor Leung for our 2 years together on Councilor. And it was, of course, virtual. But you and I took the time to get to know each other personally. And I really appreciated that about you. And I loved working with you on a number of different things, and currently working with you on our letter that I hope to get finished by the end of the year. And I love your passion, and I'm thankful for you as a friend, and thankful for your service as a city councilor. And I look forward to running into you around town still and staying in connection. So thank you again for all of your work. I also wanted to thank our tribal council that we went to go visit. It was a wonderful experience. And I would recommend, there's a wonderful book, and I'm going to forget the name of it, that they gave to us. It's behind me. And I got a chance to read it before we went. It was fascinating to learn the history of the Siletz tribe, to recognize all of the landmarks and have new meaning to all of those. It was really meaningful for me to read this information that, I didn't get that education in our public school systems. And we did learn that that is changing, and that is going to be taught in our schools now in the coming years. So just really hopeful future. And I was really just blessed to be able to go and meet people and see what was happening there, and look forward to working together here in the future. So thank you for that. I did get to go to an event that was close to my heart. I got to go to an event at the Northwest Hub, and they had a fundraising event. And I got to go and hear all of the wonderful things that they've been up to. Just really thankful for them and what they're doing for our migrant worker program, for our refugees that come here to Salem, and of course our unhoused, trying to help meet that need of transportation. They're really a unique fit. They're a nonprofit that is trying to zero in on that transportation need. So I'm thankful for what they do. It was a wonderful event to go to. And speaking of transportation, I wanted to end with a note about our Youth Zero Pass program, which Mayor Hoy brought forward at the budget this last spring. And we put, I believe it was $150,000 towards that program. And I got the numbers for October, and the ridership for youth was up 89.13% from this time last year. So really a fabulous program. I know we're going to get an update later with all of the details and more of the information about really the good work that we have been able to work with the City of Kaiser and the Salem Kaiser School District as well to kind of come together and support families in this way. And you can just really see the increased access for kids to after school programs, to work, and just the general commuting, which relieves the pressure from parents. So I love seeing a program that we put in place that's working, and that is having a direct effect on folks' budgets and, lightening their load, our young families. So I'm happy to see that moving forward and doing really good work. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilor. I think I may have mentioned to you that I spent the day at Leslie Middle School last week talking to AVID classes and social studies classes and talking about the free ridership on the chariots. A few of the students were aware of it and loved it, and then many of them weren't. And so it was really nice to be able to talk about that. And so you could just see the light bulbs going on opportunities that would create for kids to get places where they couldn't currently get. So thank you for highlighting that. I appreciate it. Councilor Varney.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. I too wanted to start out by saying thank you so much to Councilor Leung for the perspective she brings to council, her compassion, her empathy, her lived experience, and just the humanity. I mean, your presence and your just being there is truly going to be missed. And thank you so much for all you have brought to council. Well, I too also have a couple of other comments. Well, actually one, during the Salem Police Department year-end program updates shortly. But I wanted to mention, and this kind of ties back into something that Councilor Leung mentioned just in a previous meeting this evening. At Salem, we're showing what it looks like for a city to prioritize and address homelessness through our collaboration, coordination, the Housing Authority, Salem Police Department, the nonprofits, all the many community groups and hundreds of volunteers. And it's just amazing to see the progress we are making, and we continue to do so. The Salem Police Department itself has been very much involved with mobile crisis and mental health through the Homeless Services Team, the Salem Outreach and Services Team, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, and recently we heard about Marion County having their own Mobile Crisis Response Team with a couple of mental health professionals eventually being able to staff 24/7. Well, that led obviously to conversations about, so if Marion County is doing that, what is Polk County doing? Well, Polk County does currently have a mobile crisis response team, and that will be staying. That was a couple of officers, but the hours were somewhat limited. But I recently learned that Polk County Health Services is going to have its own mental health team coverage, hopefully up to 24/7 coverage, and they are called Polk Cares, CARES. And the acronym means Coordinated Assistance with Recovery, Engagement, and Support. So I just wanted to let folks from West Salem know that we are jumping on board as well. And thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Yes, I had a great meeting with Commissioner Gordon from Polk County a couple of days ago, and we talked about that very thing. So it's really exciting. to hear. Thank you for highlighting that. Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. I won't take up too much time, but I do want to acknowledge Councilor Leon and all the work that she's done. And even though I did not have much time to work with her, the small amount of time, I always appreciated her excellent questions. And again, as Councilor Varney said, her humanity. So thank you very much for all of your service. I also wanted to follow up with Councilor Nordyke. I also got to attend the chamber luncheon, and it's so heartening to hear the efforts that go into our nonprofits and all of the great work that they do. So they were there from United Way, Liberty House, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Isaacs, as she said, and then Family Building Blocks. And it was also wonderful because so much of our community do support these organizations and they do such great work. So I want to again acknowledge the nonprofits in our town. I had the opportunity, I was invited to go to Strong Towns on Saturday, and I got to speak about the Co's on State Street building, which is basically affordable market rate rent, and got to answer their questions. We got to do a very mini tour, and the attendees seemed to enjoy it. So that was a nice experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Staley, did you have anything you wanted to share?
No, sir. I'll have some more comments later this evening.
All right. Thank you. I also wanted to mention just a couple of things that occurred to me as other councilors were speaking regarding the progress we've made regarding homelessness. It was Councilor Stapleton and I had a really nice meeting today with some folks from here in town, and some were from out of town, and they were comparing us to one of the primary metro area up north, and talking about how refreshing it was here today and how great our city is looking. So it was really nice to hear that sort of out of town perspective, just to get some fresh eyes. And so that was nice to hear that out of town feedback. Also, I just wanted to mention the council had a very, very nice meeting yesterday with Senator Ron Wyden to advocate for programs that we're working on and to collaborate with him. And I think I'm looking forward to the work that we'll be able to do together. And I'm very lucky to say that on this Friday, I will be at the White House attending a meeting similar to discuss ways that we can collaborate. I was invited with some other newly elected mayors to go to a meeting at the White House to talk about ways we can work together to make our cities better. So I'm really excited to do that, and I will report back when I return on how that all goes. So I don't see any other hands up. So we will move on to proclamations. And we have what some might consider to be the most important proclamation of the year. And that's the proclamation of the mayor with the general election results from November 8th, 2022. So I have to read that. So here we go. Whereas a general election was held on the 8th day of November 2022, at which candidates for certain offices were voted upon, and whereas the results of the election have been recorded in the minute record of the council, and now therefore I, Chris Hoy, Mayor of the City of Salem, Oregon, proclaim and declare that at said election, Chris Hoy was elected mayor, Linda Nishioka was duly elected Councilor Ward 2, Deanna Gwynn was duly elected Councilor Ward 4. Julie Hoy was duly elected Councilor Ward 6. Mickey Varney was duly elected Councilor Ward 8. Eleanor Beatty was duly elected Municipal Court Judge. And the following ballot measure was approved by the voters and is adopted. Ballot measure 24-474, City of Salem Community Capital Improvements General Obligation Bond Authorization. Signed at Salem, Oregon, this 12th day of December, 2022. Congratulations to everybody who was elected, and thank you for your service to the city. And with that, we will move on to presentations. And that was one of the items of our reorder that you heard Councilor Stapleton speak about earlier. So I will invite our police chief, Trevor Womack, to present to us on item 6C, which is now item 1.4A. Chief.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor, Councilor, City Manager, Trevor Womack, Chief of Police. I really appreciate this opportunity tonight to talk a little bit about the TARP department. I'm just going to share my screen here, so give me a second. Hopefully this goes off without a hitch. There we go. Can you see that? Good. Again, thanks very much. I appreciate the chance to.
Chief, I think that we're not in presentation mode yet. We're seeing all of your notes. I think you want to go to presentation mode.
Let me try to do that over then. Stand by.
Because we're seeing smaller slides and then all your notes. And I think
okay. Let me stop sharing that. We'll try this again. I think last time I had to switch screens actually. Okay, one more time. Hang on a second.
No problem.
Let's see. Better?
Nope.
No, it's not going to work for me. Great. Having technical difficulties.
I think if you go to slideshow, maybe there's a drop down and it says presentation mode.
Yes, stand by.
If I recall correctly.
Getting messages and help from multiple people here.
I was just going to say, I hear your messenger going off. I'm sure that's all sorts of great advice and perhaps some not so great. This will be one of the nice things about going back in person. We will have IT professionals there to make this all happen.
No, I'm just not having luck here. I apologize.
Chief, how about we go to public comment and then come back to you? Would that work?
That would be much appreciated. Thank you.
And we just have one person signed up, so it's not going to be a long pause, but I'm going to give you a little bit of off-screen time to maybe work through the glitch for a second.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. All right, we'll go to public comment then briefly. And I would like to call forward Jen Benavides to speak to us on item 3.3D. You have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and your ward or your address for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, beautiful. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Benavides. My address is 1346 Windsong Court in Northwest Salem, Oregon. And I work currently for SERPRO, which is a fire and water restoration company. Excuse me. And I've currently been working in downtown on behalf of Rite Aid, as well as with the general manager of Salem Mall, and dealing with the homeless crisis in downtown. And I'm wondering if I might save this public comment until we're in person and we can speak more about it, because it just seems like such a great night for everybody. What I wanted to report on was not so exciting. It was a situation that I endured last weekend regarding a homeless person that I've moved, and we have this cycle of moving them from the Rite Aid to the Park Aid to the mall in this relentless cycle. But one of the fellows really touched my heart. He is a man that's in a wheelchair with a dog, and he decided to throw himself in the middle of the street and try to get ran over continuously last Thursday. And Salem police came and helped, and I had worked with him previously the day before and was able to get down on his level and get him out of the street and get him into a hotel. My call to action tonight, or question, was, I know that we have lots of resources, and I've gone through the list of resources for this gentleman, but because he has a dog, he can't get into shelters because he has an animal. And then also the waiting lists are so long to get into shelters. I'm just reaching out to ask the question of, is there immediate financial assistance available in any way in situations like this? And so just trying to help somebody that hit their rock bottom, make sure that they don't become a liability for the city and throw themselves once again in front of a vehicle. And this is somebody that isn't experiencing a drug or alcohol problem. Not sure how he got in a situation, but I'm just reaching out, working with business owners as well as the community, and now just reaching out to city council and trying to figure out what resources we do have available to assist. And so just bringing it here tonight and thought I would see if there was any way or what is going on with that. I see lots of efforts going on. I signed up for January 24th to go out and talk to the homeless people individually. I know that we have a mental crisis situation with counselors or people to help in these situations. And so just a concerned citizen out here and wondering what resources are available to help that I could provide for these people.
Well, thank you. And thank you for, your efforts. And I think if everybody put in the kind of effort it sounds like you are, we would definitely all be better off. So a couple of thoughts, and then I'll probably ask Gretchen Bennett, who is our unsheltered liaison, to pop on here. But a couple of thoughts, just some good news on the horizon, not here yet, but our navigation center that you may have heard about, that's going to be opening up hopefully in February, March timeframe, that will actually allow people to go to the shelter with a pet. And so
wonderful.
We're really excited about that because we see that as one of the big barriers to getting into a shelter. And so our navigation center will actually help with that situation. So it doesn't help you today, but it is some hope on the horizon that I wanted to share with you. And with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Gretchen Bennett and see if she has thoughts and to connect the two of you or maybe a further conversation as well.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. This is Gretchen Bennett, liaison on homelessness issues, and it's nice to meet you, and thank you for being here. In addition to what Mayor Hoy shared, I'm also just thinking about whether this individual, we've had an opportunity to sit down and talk with him with we have 6, soon to be 7 locations that do what we call a coordinated entry, where we can ask some questions, try to understand what his unique needs might be, and then see if and what might be available for him. No doubt there's waiting lists. Sometimes there's a resource that is available if it's a hotel or rapid rehousing strategy or a placement into a program. And so I'd be really interested to find out what we know and whether we've had a chance to connect him. So I'll find your contact information and follow up with you directly and see what we can figure out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you've done. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And Gretchen, maybe could you share your phone number or your email?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, Mayor. My direct phone number is 503.
I don't have a pen.
No, and don't, I'll find you, so don't worry. Okay. Yeah, for the community, it's 503-540-2371. And email, this might be an easier one to remember. It's humanrights@cityofsalem.net or G Bennett at cityofsalem.net.
And Gretchen will reach out to you, Ms. Benavides, to talk to you about strategies and about this specific situation that probably isn't appropriate to talk about in a public meeting, but she can help you with strategies going forward for sure. Thank you so much for bringing this issue forward. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right, that is it for public comment. I'm wondering if Chief Womack is ready to go.
Well, I'm going to give it a try again.
Let's just go with whatever you want.
All right, let's see. Let's see here. I hope it works. Same thing, huh?
Yeah, it's fine. Let's just, unless you don't want us seeing your notes, and then there you go.
I hid the notes.
Look at you. Good job. All right.
Okay. Again, appreciate this opportunity. It just has a little bit of background information before I jump into the exact updates. I think many of you heard me talk about this before, but our starting place as a department was our policing philosophy that rests on the dual pillars of principled policing and smarter policing. And born out of that philosophy was the development of the department's first strategic plan that we spent a year developing. And that focused us in 3 strategic areas as a department for safety, legitimacy, and excellence. And now we're beginning to see as that plan is starting to stick, and we're seeing the actual work that's coming out of that planning. And so we're going to draw some connections there tonight between that philosophy, the plan, and the work that's happening. And but I also want to emphasize that this work is supporting your priorities, identified priorities as council, as far including building great neighborhoods, increasing equitable delivery of city services, creating a resilient community, and addressing homelessness. So connecting some dots there too, that we're supporting the council's priorities. And then we want to recognize too the results of the recent citywide survey, which again, our residents told us that there's an increasing concern around crime, which of course we recognize and we're focusing directly on and being responsive, and the ongoing top community concern around addressing the issue of homelessness. So I think all of this work tonight plays into all of those areas to show how we're being responsive. So some of the programs we'll talk about tonight, and again, there's so much other good work happening within the department. I could talk about my department for days. I'm very proud of the work that's being done outside of just what's in this report. But tonight we're going to focus in on our homeless services team, intelligence-led policing, our body-worn camera program that we're about to implement, police legitimacy, which is our trust building efforts, and some challenges and also opportunities around hiring and retention. So with that, we'll start with homeless services team. This team, you'll recall, of course, your council, we appreciate you funding 2 new positions for the police department recently, supported also through a state sheltering grant. And these 2 senior officers have been assigned to the team. They're, again, senior officers, very well versed and trained and have great interpersonal skills, expert at developing relationships and connections in our community. And so that's exactly what they're working on. Our homeless services team officers are partnered up directly with the city SOS team. And so they're working on responding to unmanaged and campsite situations, unmanaged campsites in our community, building those relationships with folks that are experiencing homelessness and working to connect them with services. So we can't emphasize enough that their efforts are not about arrest at all. In fact, arrest is a last resort in very limited circumstances. They are all about safety for everyone involved in our collaborative approach and making relationships and connecting folks to services. So just to get a glimpse in the short time that they've already been around, a glimpse of the work that they're doing, we have some early statistics just in the past few months. They've already visited over 200 unmanaged campsites. They've interacted with 281 folks experiencing homelessness in those areas, and they've made direct referrals and connections for 53 individuals. And so they're doing very valuable, meaningful work in the right ways and in the support of our priorities as a department and as a city. So we're very happy with that team, and it's a great addition. As a side note, this team, I think Councilor Varney mentioned also, this team supports really the efforts of some other teams in that ecosystem as well. We have a long-standing mobile crisis response team in partnership with Marion County Behavioral Health, where officers partnered with a qualified mental health professional, so they coordinate and collaborate with that team as well. And we just heard about some funding on both the Polk County and Marion County side for increasing the behavioral health non-law enforcement crisis response teams that are going to occur in both counties. So intelligence-led policing falls for us under our umbrella of smarter policing. And especially for a department when your resources are stretched very thin, as ours are, it's very critical that you make data-driven, intelligence-led decisions on how we police to be as effective as possible with our limited resources. So we're focused, of course, on reducing crime as a safety component in our community. Right now, an emphasis definitely has been on violent crime with some of the shooting activity we've seen. Also around improving livability, but doing all that while we also work to increase community trust, working on building and maintaining relationships and that trust between the police and the community. So we've developed a management structure around this, a model that we can use that brings together these ideas of using data to make decisions along with human intelligence of our officers that are out working in the field, and combines that when we put the strategy together with concepts around procedural justice and community engagement, those trust building efforts, to focus on smaller geographic areas within the city that are at higher risk for these type of incidents for occurring. Developing strategies to try to lower that risk, and then coming together on a monthly basis to do this work. When we return the following month to kind of assess the progress that we've made, talk about our strategic approaches, what we've learned, and continue to refine the approach in that way on a monthly basis. So we now have this new management structure in place, kind of putting these ideas in motion to focus on some geographic areas within our city. This is not simply putting cops on dots like we did in the old days, or just the hotspot policing. This is an evolution of those ideas and an improvement because it includes the trust building efforts kind of baked into the model. The other thing about this model that we're happy about is that it's expandable. So we are laying the framework for the future. You heard me talk before about implementing a community policing model for the city. It's going to take some additional resources to turn that into reality, but this approach is expandable. So if you can imagine, for example, a team that like we have downtown, it used to be called the Downtown Enforcement Team on bikes. Now we call them the Community Action Unit. They're being spread a little thin, work in different areas of the city now. They're not just focused downtown, but they're removed from calls for service. They're able to proactively work with the community, be responsive and solve problems, and do some community engagement and trust building efforts also. So if you can imagine taking a small team like that and replicating it so that there's one in every of our 6 policing districts, then we'd be able to apply this approach throughout the city rather than just 1 or 2 small areas at a time. So we're excited about that. We think it's a very good, effective use of our resources, and ensures that we're being as focused as possible. Body-worn camera program. We're very appreciative the council approved funding for this program 2 budget cycles ago now. It's taken some time to get the program up and running, some necessary time actually. We spent quite a bit of time developing a brand new policy for the department around body-worn cameras, how they'll be deployed, how they're going to be deployed, when they must be activated, retention of the data and video. All those types of issues have been addressed in policy now. By the way, as a side note, that policy is available online. Our policies as a department have not been posted publicly before. We'll talk about this a little further on in the presentation as well, but this is the first one that we've actually posted on our transparency portal. So it's available there if anybody would like to see it. Then we moved into a vendor selection process. So we kind of scanned the horizon of all the vendors that are out there that provide these services. We landed on 3 major well-known vendors that we put through a pretty in-depth selection process where we did in-field testing, a months-long testing process with a team of officers, and used the camera systems under stress conditions as well, such as low light, wet conditions, physical contact. And after that process, we landed on a Motorola system that we entered into contract with. And we've now received all the equipment as well. First, there was some supply chain issues that delayed it a bit, but now we have all that equipment and we're ready to deploy. The budget for the program was about $400,000 just for the technology side of it, the equipment. The contract that we put together with Motorola comes in under budget on an annual basis, the average there. So that was good. It left us a little room too for some ancillary costs that are associated with the program. So we're falling within budget. And we have some new staffing for the program that was also authorized. So 4 support staff positions, 3 of those have already been filled and we're actively recruiting for the 4th. So we're right on track. Those have to do with records, evidence processing, and the technology side of it, the support that's needed. So finally, we're excited about implementation. That's going to start in January. So right after the holidays, we'll be training all of our officers. We'll be deploying the cameras. You'll begin to see Salem police officers with their body cameras on in the field. And we also will be installing in-car cameras in the police vehicles as well. We should have all that done by March. So again, we're excited about this. This introduces a new level of accountability into the policing equation. And by that, I mean accountability on behalf of the officers and also the community during every interaction. It provides a factual, objective recording of what occurs, which is a positive. This is something supported by the officers, police management, by our community. And so we're excited to get this program off the ground. Another first for our department. Talk a bit about police legitimacy. These are our trust building efforts, and it's built into our strategic plan. For us, this word legitimacy, police legitimacy, is all about looking through a community's lens, through the eyes of our community. Do they view us, their police department, as competent, capable, effective, and trustworthy? It's not us judging ourselves, it's the community's lens. And so that's something we never want to take for granted. We want to be very deliberate about making that a priority for our department. It's a never-ending process. There's no finish line, and we'll be continually working to build and maintain trust with our community. You've heard me talk a little bit about this before, perhaps, but foundational, the starting point here for us is procedural justice. And the 4 tenets there on the screen, the 4 tenets of procedural justice, have to do with giving people voice, active listening, being neutral in our decision-making. For example, being fair and neutral with objective facts, not making decisions based off irrelevant things such as gender or race or political affiliations, for example. So being fair and neutral in our decision-making, treating everyone with dignity and respect in all circumstances, and acting in trustworthy ways. So following through on our word, coming from the best of intentions. We started there with procedural justice training for the whole department in early 2022. We're moving into the next iteration of training for all of our staff members in the first quarter of 2023. And at that time, we'll be introducing an implicit bias module into the training as well. At the same time, we've developed an advisory council to the chief. These are folks in our community that I've met along the way in various settings as I introduced myself and got to know the community. And there's 13 members of this informal advisory body that I put together now. And they have a direct voice, a community voice, with the chief of police as a policy maker for the organization to help inform my decisions around policy, practice, and training. And we have our partnership principles that we use as a guide with this group on the screen. Numerous meetings last year, and we're excited about where we're going next year. We're going to be diving into policy a little bit deeper and also beginning to introduce more of our police command staff to the group to build some relationships there also. This is a picture from the group. We had a recent meeting. They got to preview our implicit bias training that we're getting ready to prepare or present to our officers starting in January. Also important to trust and legitimacy are our policies, right? The police policies are those formal guidelines for our organization about how we operate, how we conduct ourselves, and how we hold ourselves accountable. So as far as building and maintaining trust with our community, it's important that we have a full set of policies that are current, in accordance with law, incorporate emerging best practice, and are well organized. And so we've brought on a vendor, a consultant, to help us go through this process that does this type of work in 35 states across the nation, Lexipol. They're going to be partnering with us to review all of our current policies. There's over 170 of them. So it's a year-long process that we've just started, policy by policy, working to bring this outside consultant in with us, along with our own internal expertise, to merge these policies together to make sure that it's tailored for Salem and reflects our values and what our community expects out of their police department. So we're working on that now. We want to make sure, like I said, that we're in compliance with law and best practice. And just a picture of the basic flow of that work. There's several working groups working on this to get to the point where we have a final draft policy, which comes to me for approval as the final decision maker. And then, excitingly for me too, the end result will be the public posting of all of these policies online through our transparency portal. So our full set of policies will be available for public review online as well. Also exploring ways to inject a community voice into this process. So be that through the advisory council to the chief, which I'm working with now, or through the community police review board, finding ways to get some final input and voice to the community before adoption of the policy, also inserting that into the process. So on the lines of transparency, I think we're talking a lot about the good things that are happening within the organization today. I think it's important that we're transparent too about some of our challenges, but they also present opportunities. And so hiring and retention for us now is becoming a bit of a challenge. That's not just Salem Police. This is a challenge for our profession across the entire country, actually. Agencies are facing the same challenges. And it's being exacerbated by these two situations that are occurring at the same time. We're seeing increased attrition. More folks are leaving the profession, either from retirement or just deciding to leave the profession altogether. And there's less interest. There's fewer applications coming in for police officer positions as well. So those two things are happening at the same time for us, just as they are in other agencies. And it's necessarily causing us to kind of double down our efforts and focus more on recruiting and retaining our employees. So it's a top priority now for the department. We're beginning to approach the 10% vacancy rate, which for me is that early warning sign that we're getting a little too low. I want to make sure we stay ahead of that and not fall too far behind. So we've got some plans in place already that we're also expanding upon that have some near-term strategies, some longer-term strategies in there as well, to make sure that we're keeping pace and recruiting, hiring, retaining a nice qualified, diverse workforce that we need here in Salem. So with that, I think the ask for me in that regard is that this is a problem for our challenge for our whole community, not just the police department. And I need the community's help coming together around this idea of recruiting and bringing the best and brightest into the organization. So anyone in the community who knows folks who want to make change, want to serve, have a heart of service, and may consider a career in public safety or public service, I'd encourage them to consider Salem Police Department, because this is the time and this is the place to be to get into law enforcement. So our website's there, and we're actively recruiting and hiring. So with that high-level overview, I'd really be happy to take any feedback or questions at this time as well.
Well, thank you, Chief, and thank you for your presentation. We'll start with questions. I see Councilor Nordyke up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, so much. I appreciate that. And also, I reached out to you recently to have some detectives work on some vandalism of some mailboxes in a section of my ward. And I appreciate the prompt follow-up by members of your team. So thank you for that. I do have a couple questions. One has to do with the hiring and the vacancy rate that you mentioned. I think you said you have about a 10% vacancy rate. Did I hear that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So as I recall, after our budget committee meetings ended last session without a noticeable increase in your budget, council convened and we voted separately to add several more additional positions to your department. So since that vote, have those positions been posted and have those positions been filled? The ones that we approved, I want to say was May of earlier this year.
Yeah, thank you for that, the prompt. I've been wanting to add this into the presentation anyway. So we're very appreciative of the fact that the council authorized 6 additional positions for the department. Those actually take effect on January 1st. So they haven't really been funded yet, but they're the second half of the fiscal years, that takes effect. So we haven't posted or advertised those positions yet. We have vacancies that we need to fill anyway. So those are just going to currently add 6 more vacancies to the department for active recruitment efforts. But on those positions, specifically, those were a step in the right direction also as far as implementing some of the community policing reforms that we were talking about with the original community policing engagement audit, followed by that staffing analysis we did. One of the recommendations in there as both an efficiency measure and an accountability measure was to move line level supervision of police officers in the field up to the sergeant level, right, which is the appropriate level for supervision to occur. And the line level police officer work down to the police officer level. Currently, we have a corporal rank kind of in the middle there, a lead level position, and we're in the process of phasing out that rank. And so the addition of these 6 positions for the department allow us to actually phase out that corporal rank, create a few more supervisory positions at the sergeant level to implement that efficiency and accountability measure that was recommended. So that's not going to be the solution to our staffing needs, of course, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. We very much appreciate council supporting that, and we're going to be working hard to fill those to implement the changes needed with that corporal rank phase out. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I do have a couple follow-ups, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
So those vacancies, they haven't even been posted yet because they take effect in the upcoming year. Can you estimate, once you add those 6 additional vacancies, how many total vacancies will you have effective January 1?
Today, we have 17 or 18 sworn vacancies right now. We anticipate several more retirements in the coming year. Our best projections, just to keep track with attrition, we're going to have to double our hiring rate. So we're actually not doing bad historically. So this year in 2022, we're hiring 3 more officers on Monday. I get to swear in 3 new people Monday, and that's going to bring our hiring to 15 for this year. Our average number of hires for the past several years was 12. So we're actually hiring more in 2022 than we have in the past. So we don't necessarily have a hiring problem in that sense. It's just that the situation has changed so much on us with the attrition rate that we're trying to keep up with. So we're going to have to hire 22 to 25 officers a year, we estimate, for the next several years to keep pace with attrition, much less add any additional positions to the department. So this is why I say it's really risen to a top priority now as far as us as a department. I think as a council and as a city, we're going to have to look at ways to support that doubling down of hiring that's going to have to occur just to keep pace with attrition.
Thank you. And then the final question I had, you mentioned the independent audit that we had done of the Salem Police Department shortly before your arrival as our new chief. As I recall, one of the other recommendations that the auditors came up with was to add more non-police personnel to Salem PD to handle lower level work, such as crash investigations and other kind of low level, I would say the low level crimes that don't necessarily require a DPSST certified person to serve. Is Salem Police Department planning on adding more of those folks? Because number one, you wouldn't have to worry about hiring more police officers for those kinds of positions and all of the additional background checks and other complications for adding police. But it could also save you money potentially because those individuals might not be paid as much as a sworn officer. Are you working on adding those kinds of folks?
Yes, thank you. And I couldn't agree with that recommendation out of that study more. And so we have 8 part-time community service officer positions now. They're just part-time. They're not full-time. Those are non-sworn, uniformed positions in the field that can go to non-emergency calls, take theft reports and so forth, and do those type of lower, non-emergency type response in the field, but they're just part-time. And so we're working to convert those positions to full-time. So we actually just tested to create 2 of the full-time positions currently, using salary savings to try to make that happen. Those aren't budgeted positions. So at some point, I will be coming forward to council asking for additional funding for those non-sworn positions as well. But we are about to create our first 2 full-time CSO positions in addition to the part-timers we have, and go through a transition period where we have at least 4 or more, hopefully over the next several years, of those non-sworn CSOs full-time that can handle more of that non-emergency call load. So I agree. I think we need more, and not at the expense of the sworn side. I think that that staffing analysis was fairly clear also that in addition to the 30 to 80 police officers that we need for patrol, we also need the non-sworn support as well. So it's all of that. It's not one or the other.
Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you so much. I had 2 questions or 2 topics to ask you about. Thank you so much for this report. It was really in-depth and good reading, and I appreciate the time and energy that went into it to keep us all updated on what you're doing. And also, I guess I'll just say this as well. I appreciate your leadership. There's many times that I email you after you have reached out to me about something that's happened in my ward to just thank you for just the really open and honest and direct feedback that you give us and communication and letting us know what's happening around our ward. I really, really appreciate that. So thank you for your leadership style. It is really appreciated. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about first was graffiti. And the reason I asked, we hear about this a lot in our wards. And over the year, I know that we have struggled with keeping that position filled as well. I believe we had 2 and then we were down to 1. I would love an update on those 2 positions, or maybe I'm wrong on that. If there's more, that's great. And just the status of that project the program that we run there.
Yes, thank you. I believe you're correct. There's 2 authorized positions there, and we've kind of been up and down with some turnover there. I have Lieutenant Debbie Aguilar with me, and she'll know the exact answer, so maybe I can ask her for some help here.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Councilor Stapleton and Mayor Hoy. For the record, my name is Debbie Aguilar, Lieutenant with Salem Police Department. So yes, we do have 2 graffiti workers positions. One is currently filled. The second one, we actually did a successful hiring process, and that person is in background right now. So we hope to fill that position sometime mid-January. And by then we'll have 2 full-time graffiti abatement workers.
Okay, thank you. I know that is a challenge across the board, I think all over town. But we definitely notice when we are down a person. And so I hope that that position is filled and stays filled, and that we can continue to keep up on that. Because I know when we have both people, that it's a really good response time, and folks are getting that taken care of, and I appreciate that. The next thing I wanted to ask you about was traffic fatalities. Sorry. I just recently read a report from NPR about traffic fatalities reaching a 16-year high in 2021, with 43,000 people dying on American roads. And the deaths of folks walking and biking are up 62% over the past decade. And I know that we are not immune to that. We have deaths that happen here in our city, both from people who are driving, but also walking and biking. I know that since the pandemic happened, the speeds have increased. And I know that somebody's speeding by my house right now, so sorry if it gets loud. I know that we have an issue with staffing and not enough police officers on the road to really be everywhere at all times. But maybe you could speak to us about just our traffic program, what you're seeing on the roads. Is that kind of the same thing that you're seeing here that was reported countrywide?
Yes, there's definitely a trend, and the United States is kind of bucking the trend internationally as well, too, right? I mean, we're seeing a turn of historical downtrend in fatalities now going up. We're seeing some of that in Salem as well. I do think that the pandemic had something to do with that. There was less traffic on the streets, which caused more people to speed up, actually, I think. That played a part. We're seeing some of that in Salem. We have seen a number of fatalities. And the challenging part for us, too, you touched on it, is with the staffing, is as the fatality numbers increase, your expert traffic investigators, which we only have 7 or 8 officers dedicated to our traffic unit, they get pulled into those investigations, which are extremely time consuming, and allows less opportunity to do other proactive work or education or enforcement in the field. So you can get on this downward trend where, because of limited staffing, they're consumed by the investigative work behind the fatalities. So that is definitely a challenge for us. We need to redirect more resources into traffic. I believe that's an area we need to focus on. We've heard that from our community when we were developing our strategic plan as well. That's definitely a high priority. And we have some initiatives written into our strategic plan, but it is going to take the dedication of resources to get more presence out in the field. Of course, we have our red light camera program too that helps reduce accidents at collisions that have been, at intersections where we see there's higher rates of collisions. Those have proven effective. So we can always look at how that works and whether that's expandable or not, if that makes sense. And any sort of message speed radar boards or messaging boards that we can deploy. We have some new one of those that we've expanded our capacity is there as well. There's lots of different approaches that we can take. I've talked here too, just about our loosely related, but our car care program, where if we do happen to stop folks that have equipment violations, that's not really what we're focused on. So we can give them vouchers to help get their cars repaired and allow us to stay focused on those violations that are causing injury collisions, the speeding and red light violations. And so we're definitely trying to be strategic in our efforts, but I think there's a need for more capacity as well across the board.
Thank you so much for the update.
Chief, backing up to the graffiti issue, do we utilize volunteers? And if so, do you need more, or is that an opportunity if we don't use them currently to deal with graffiti? Is there maybe a possibility that we could start utilizing volunteers to help with that? Seems like a place maybe volunteers could be useful.
I do think we can expand with our volunteer opportunities there as well. We do provide paint and so forth for community members too. I know some neighborhood associations are actively involved. We provide them supplies to paint over some graffiti at parks and so forth. So we do have some community support there, but I think we can expand with our volunteer program as well. So if there's interest out there, reach out.
Thanks, Chief. Councilor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hoy, and thank you, Chief Womack, for being here and your excellent summary. I really appreciate the work that you've done in the past couple of years since taking over here as our police chief. And I support you and your efforts to create a strategic plan and move us in the direction of having community-led policing. And I appreciate the progress report tonight. I have maybe a couple comments and really praise from the community for yourself and your department. In the past several months, there was an issue in Ward 3 that involved some unsheltered community members gathering in a place that was, unsafe and really not allowed. And the prompt interaction from city staff and the police on the homeless service team really made a difference in a surprisingly short period of time. Within less than a week, there was a really big turnaround in the Morningside Neighborhood Association area. So we really appreciate that. Please thank the officers and really all the staff involved for making that difference. Additionally, the deployment of that mobile radar reader board, we've got that deployed at a couple different places in Ward 3, and we're able to hear back on the data acquired from that new technology. Again, we appreciate the promptness that was deployed here in this Morningside neighborhood area and in just north of the Morningside Neighborhood Association area, closer to downtown. I guess my question would be, it was touched on by Council President Stapleton. I agree, traffic data shows that people are still speeding despite, the more people being on the roads again. The data is going in the wrong direction. I personally think that we should have more of those, signalized cameras that have shown to decrease collisions and speeding at the intersections. Is that something that in general is supported by, the department and yourself moving forward, if and when it's possible?
In general, yes. There's everything's more complicated than it seems on the surface. So there's staffing and resource issues behind that. There's also frankly, a monetary component. And I don't mean that by the fact that we're out to make money off of tickets, not at all, but the system has to be supported by the amount of revenue that comes in. This is a vendor supported system. So you have to have intersections with enough traffic and enough violations to garner the revenue that's needed to support the system itself, not to make a profit, but to just pay for the system. And so that's why it doesn't make sense for smaller intersections with a lot of less traffic. And you typically see it in the major intersections where they have high amounts of traffic. So that's where we need to remain focused, because that's where the system financially makes sense. And it can have the biggest impact, because those are a lot of times the intersections when people are speeding the most and have the most serious collisions as well. But we do generally support that. We just need to look at it within that context and think of the downstream effects too, because it impacts. There's actually a person that reviews every one of those video captured images and authorizes the citation. So there's bodies behind approving those citations and reviewing them. And then it impacts the courts as far as how they're processed through the courts as well. So it impacts our municipal court staff also. So it's just thinking of all those costs together when we add more cameras to the system.
Thank you. That's really helpful information and perspective to have. Once again, I appreciate your expertise. And again, please pass along the appreciation from the Morningside Neighborhood Association, and then just in general, when the officers show up at the neighborhood associations, Fairlight, Morningside, for that direct communication with community members, it's really appreciated. So, we look forward to you guys being successful in your hiring efforts and continuing to have, officers available for those community events.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Also, you're probably aware of this, but in case you're not, there was a law change recently in the last legislative session that allows non-sworn police officers to review those tickets. I voted against it. I thought it was a horrible idea, but it is now the law nonetheless. So that is a way that you could free up a resource potentially for a non-sworn person to review those tickets. I think I have to look at the detail, but in case you're not aware, it's something to look into.
Thank you. Maybe a bit of cost savings there.
Exactly. A lot of times, retired folks who maybe haven't maintained their certification, and up in Portland, I think they were using Public Works or something. I don't know. Anyway, Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Councilor Nishioka, Ward 2. I want to again thank Chief Womack for a wonderful update program. I would encourage the officers that come to the neighborhood association meetings, they're always so great, and the attendees love to ask them questions and get a lot of information. I think it would be great if they could even come with potentially a small bullet point program with these highlights and review that information with them, because again, sometimes they don't get to hear all of the good things that have happened and the goals that you have, and then they can even talk about recruiting. So I would encourage you to have some of them do that. Many of the meetings are now are attended in person, and there is opportunities for a visual. Doesn't always, not all, but it's just something, if you would like to talk to those officers that come out, I would encourage that. I too have had a lot of complaints about traffic, especially around schools, and the speed at which people are driving. And I know that Public Works is listening and trying to figure out ways to help. So if the speeding lights aren't cost effective in those types of smaller neighborhoods, if there's any other ways that we could maybe find to encourage people to reduce their speed, especially around schools. It seems to be a big issue right now. So again, I want to compliment you on all the work you've done. I too appreciate what you have done for the police department, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate those comments. And again, it's not me. I mean, I get to represent the agency, but I'm so proud of daily the work done by staff. You mentioned the neighborhood association meetings. Just to reiterate, we made a change there. So it's difficult to have consistent attendance at the neighborhood association meetings for the district officers because we were just understaffed. And so what would happen is our best intention would be to have officers to show up at the meetings, but then emergencies were happening and they wouldn't show up, and it was inconsistent. And so maybe a year ago, we made the decision to specifically assign a police sergeant to all of the neighborhood association meetings. And so the police sergeants, the supervisors, they're not directly, having to respond to calls like the officers are. And so they're more reliable and consistent presence, able to attend the neighborhood association meetings. And they're more of a management level position. So they have a little bit better understanding of some of the bigger issues and can speak to them better. And so I think that's what you're seeing. I've heard really good feedback with the consistency of having a sergeant kind of own each neighborhood association meeting, be responsive. And then that sergeant as a supervisor has some authority. If there's needs or requests that come back, they can actually go redirect some resources to take care of that problem. So I think it's been a good change for us. And I've heard good feedback, not just from the community, but even from the sergeants, right? They like that interaction with the community. So thank you for that feedback.
Councilor Leung.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Councilor Leung, Ward 4. Chief, thank you again for the report and update in terms of what the officers are doing, and also for fellow councilors for asking those important questions, especially when it comes to speeding. Like, not the entire city, we hear people, members of our community who come to us, telling us, informing us about their concerns about people who are speeding on the city streets. And, we're worried that eventually someone's going to get hit and killed, like whether it's young children who are waiting at the bus stop, or if it's someone who's just trying to cross the street to get to the other side to check the mail. And, we are also hearing, like, as Councilor Stapleton even mentioned, when, she was trying to talk a few minutes ago, and you could hear all those cars driving in the background. Many of us hear that too, even in the middle of the night when we're getting ready for bed. It's completely silent, and all of a sudden you hear an engine go zooming, like right probably a few blocks away, and you're just waiting for that sound of that crash that we hope never happens. So, like, what can we tell at this point to members of our community, especially those who are dealing with people who are speeding in the middle of the night? What can we tell them and help them with, if anything?
Appreciate the question, the comment. Thank you, Councilor. For us, it's all a matter of priorities. So we want to be a full service police department that can respond to issues big and small. Unfortunately, we're in a situation we can't right now. So if you think about the recent shooting incidents we've had, that we've done great work on, actually, we made another arrest today. on a shooting that happened recently where 2 people were shot. We just made an arrest on that today. That's tenacious investigative work, hours of work by investigators. And there was a shooting a few days before that we just made an arrest on 2 days ago. So when those things happen in our community, they pull in so many of our resources. We're very good, actually. I was just looking, for example, at our clearance rate for homicide here by our agency for the past 4 years. There's only 2 unsolved homicides in the past 4 years in our community out of over 20 homicides. It's an unbelievable clearance rate that we have. That's quality investigative work. We follow up on our serious shootings the same way. But what that does is it really pulls in the resources to focus on that top priority, life safety issues, shooting victims, assaults, stabbings. Those are our top priority. Obviously, they have to be necessarily. And so when we get to be stretched thin like we are, that's where the resources go. And unfortunately, they're coming at the sacrifice of traffic safety enforcement, low-level theft investigations, those type of things that we're having to pull away from to focus on those top priority, violent crime issues that are occurring in the community. So for me, it really is a resource issue. And that's why we developed that management style or model that I talked about, intelligence, communication, and planning. So we have these monthly meetings and we decide based on the data, what is our top priority and focus right now and where? And then we try to focus our resources to make a difference, or at least for that 30 days, and then move on to the next area. It's a little bit like squeezing a balloon sometimes, but when you can't be everywhere all the time, you have to focus your priorities and try to direct them as best you can. So, but in short, do make the complaints and concerns. We want to receive that information. We want to know where the concerns are. We can assess it with some of our radar reader boards, as Councilor Phillips was talking about, get data to determine if there truly is a speeding issue there that we need to focus on. And it helps to tell us when it's happening. For example, a lot of times complaints will come in and just say, oh, they're speeding all the time. And, obviously we can't deal with that. So it's nice to have the data that when we gather that says, okay, it's late afternoon, and maybe we can direct a resource there for a couple hours and be very targeted with that approach. So there are some things we can do, but I do need to emphasize that there's some limitations that we're pushing up against with resources.
Understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Hoy from Ward 6 here. Just didn't want to go unheard in saying how much I appreciate the hard work that you all do. I also, I know everybody else has already stated the obvious, and I just want to say I think you're in the right place at the right time, and Salem is very lucky to have you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Chief, if I don't see any other hands up, I would just like to say that, you made some promises to us as a council when you got here, and you told us your plans. And I feel like this report is really delivering on those plans and those promises that you made. And I feel really good about that. And I think the community can as well. You made your promise, you told us what you were going to do, and here you're delivering on it. So I just wanted to say that I thank you for that, and I appreciate it. And I think that the entire council recognizes that, and we are grateful to you as we move the police department forward. And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, as a leader, I accept that feedback, but I really do owe it to my staff. They're just really working hard and embracing kind of change and innovation in ways that's pretty impressive, actually. So I'm very thankful and grateful to be here in this position.
Well, thanks, Chief. That law enforcement officers aren't necessarily known for embracing change. So that's kudos to you for helping with that and managing through that, and with all the staff, and just managing through those unknowns and that new territory. It's important work, and we really appreciate it. And thank you. So I see that it's about 10 till 8. We still have, we're just starting down our consent agenda. I think we've been here 2 hours. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and reconvene in 5 minutes? Thank you. Item 3, so Councilor Stapleton, the consent calendar.
Thank you. I move approval of the consent calendar with the exception of item 3.3B pulled by Councilor Nordyke.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Our consent calendar consists of item 3.1A, which is the December 5th, 2022 draft city council minutes. Item 3.2A, the acquisition of property for the Shelton Ditch Improvement Project. 3.2B, a minor amendment to the West Salem Urban Renewal Plan to align with Oregon revised statutes. Item 3.2C, authorizing the sale of the general obligation bonds. And item 3.3A, the ground lease. Sorry, my cat is about to jump on me, so I'm like super distracted right now. I apologize. Ground lease amendment with the Aviation Properties Northwest LLC, which is doing business as the Metal Innovation Incorporated for real property at Salem Municipal Airport. Item 3.3C, application for project funding under the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Item 3.3D, the investment in the annual point in time count through redirection of funds and current Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance grant. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Councilor Leung.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick thing about the point in time count is, especially since it's coming up next month, I strongly encourage members of our community to sign up and volunteer for whether it's one day or a few days, even one shift. It makes a big difference because it helps us count the total number of people in our community who are unhoused. It could be individuals who are camping. It could be people in their cars. It could even be people who are couch surfing. And, we never have enough volunteers to help us with this. And it's very important for us, especially as we submit reports and get additional funding to help our unsheltered communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor, for highlighting that. And in case anybody is worried that they might not know what they're doing, there's training involved. It's really easy. And we're making a really big push this time in our 2-county region to get as many volunteers as we can so we get the best number possible for the reasons that Councilor Young explained. So thank you for highlighting that. If there's no further discussion, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Leung.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Everyone at this house, including my 2 dogs, votes aye. And the motion passes. I apologize. We had a little outside noise that triggered the dog alarm. With that, we will move on to item 5A, Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, everyone. So tonight I made a motion out of a real desire to do the right thing.
Start with your motion first and then do the explanation.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes, I can. To that end, I just want to say that I'm moving the city to create the Lisa Letney Award to honor those who volunteer to serve Salem's unsheltered and others at risk of becoming unsheltered.
Second.
Second? Yeah.
Councilor?
Thank you so much. So this is something that I feel very passionate about because I knew Lisa myself. Lisa and I crossed paths while volunteering and working with the unsheltered community. And Lisa was beloved by many and gone far too soon. I strongly recommend you take a look at the Salem Reporter archives. She was featured in not one, but 2 Salem Reporter articles. We know that our community service organizations, the City of Salem, Salem Housing Authority, and many others work with our unsheltered and those who are this close to becoming homeless every day. But the need is so great that we still have a number of individuals who step in to fill the gaps in service. And it takes a special person who gets up in the morning and decides that there's a need out there and I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to do something about it right now. And that is a sort of ferocity and compassion and can-do spirit that Lisa Letney had. And that's what led her to be known as the Potato Lady, meaning that she would bake pounds and pounds of potatoes, wrap them in tin foil, and pass them out to the people who live on the streets as a form of comfort, as something warm to hold in their hands, and as food. And she did it without giving it a second thought. So Lisa is a very, very special person, and she is sorely missed. The celebration of life for her at the Willamette Heritage Center was nothing short of magical. And you could tell from the number of folks in the room and the amount of tears that were shed that night, just how many people are inspired by her. So I wanted to create something to honor her legacy. Now, for some of my newer members of council, you may not know this, but every year we come together as a city to honor our volunteers for the incredible work that they give back to our city. And if you take a look at the current types of awards we have right now, we have, for example, the Mayor's Youth Achievement Award, which is presented to a youth or a youth group involved in a volunteer project. We also have the Richard Swires Public Works Employee Award in honor of Public Works employee Richard Swires, who passed away in January 2020. This is an award that goes specifically to a Public Works employee for his or her efforts to the community. I give these examples because we know from our awards programming that sometimes it is helpful to call out and to specifically recognize a type of service to our community. And out of all of the awards that we currently have for volunteers, not one of them specifically addresses volunteers to the unsheltered and those at risk of becoming without shelter. And we know that there are hundreds of people like Lisa who give their time specifically to support our homeless shelters, who sign up for shifts at the warming centers, who volunteer at places like Simonka Place, UGM, Center for Hope and Safety in their shelters for domestic violence survivors, Safe Sleep United, a shelter specific to homeless women in the area, and so much more. Church of the Park, all these individuals every year. It is hundreds of individuals, and I can only imagine how many thousands of combined hours of service this results in. So for all these reasons, I wanted to create this award to add to our list of other volunteer awards to honor Lisa and to recognize service to our city specific to serving these individuals who are at great risk of harm themselves. So for all these reasons, I am making this motion. And I anticipate zero financial impact to the city by creating this award. It's just we're adding it to the list of other volunteer awards that we have. So I would imagine additional staff time would be negligible by adding this additional award. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? If the recorder will please call the roll.
Councilor Leon.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Councilor, for bringing that forward. Item 3.3B, Councilor Nordyke.
One moment, please. I'm sorry, can you say which item was that again? I was so busy looking at my notes for the last motion. I need a reminder.
3.3B is in boy.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, scrolling to that now. All right, I move to approve a new pay grade added to the executive management pay plan and include the et cetera allowance, I'm not going to repeat it verbatim, for the deputy city manager job classification as of December 12, 2022, as stated in agenda item 3.3B.
Second.
Counselor, to your motion.
Thank you. So I am supportive of adding an additional level of management to the city because we are a big city with big city problems. We just don't know it yet. And I see a need for this. However, I do think it's important for us to spell out to the council and to the public why. Why now? Why do we need a deputy city manager? Why and how can we justify the financial expense of a deputy city manager? And my final question is, we have a huge need when it comes to serving the homelessness community, affordable housing, and a lot of other individuals who are at great risk of personal harm and personal safety challenges. So those are a lot of questions, which I can repeat them if the city manager would like. I anticipate he'll be the one responding to this. But those are the questions and the concerns that I have about this position.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Staley, and I know we have also Michelle Bennett here from Human Resources as needed. So I'll turn it over to you first, Mr. Staley.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate based on the kind of questions that Councilmember Nordyke was asking. When I originally engaged with the city of Salem in the interview process, I took a look at the organizational structure and I recognized most immediately that the city manager's office was grossly understaffed. And I spoke about that during my interview process. And as I've come to engage with the city of Salem for the last 3 months, and by the way, today I am celebrating my 3rd month with the city, completing my 3rd month with the city started on September 12th. So here we are on December 12th. And I have to say that opinion has not changed. As I've engaged with the leadership team and the community and come to recognize the needs that we're facing in our community, I don't think that the existing organizational structure is such that it is going to allow us to engage those needs the way we need to. Thinking about the structure that I have in mind and that I am moving towards, I am going to need this additional capacity in the city manager's office. Last year, the city retained the management consulting firm of Moss Adams to do an organizational assessment and review of our organizational needs and staffing needs. And the area that they identified as having the greatest need was in the city manager's office. Again, that has been my experience as well. So I think that the positions that we're putting in front of you this evening is a step in that direction. Is it going to solve all of the city's problems? Absolutely not. But is it a step in the right direction to allow us to start the conversations necessary to improve our ability to respond to these really pressing issues that Councilmember Nordyke identified, homelessness and housing. Right now, Gretchen Bennett, who is our homeless response coordinator, also has about 7 other job responsibilities that pull her in a myriad of different directions. Gretchen is extraordinary, but even she is pulled to the point of breaking by her current responsibilities. By putting these additional resources into the system, it's going to allow Gretchen to spend more of her time focused on what we've identified as our #1 priority here in the community. And we've heard from our community in our recent community survey that it remains a priority for them. So the other thing that I would point out in regards to this is that because of some changes in staffing, with the departure of the community development director, we were able to do this without adding another position to the organizational structure. We literally are repurposing existing positions. And again, I'm not going to tell you that that will be the organizational structure that we'll be going forward with in the 2023 budget, but it does give us the capacity today to pursue these additional positions and to start setting the table for the discussions that we're going to have with the community about implementing the $300 million bond issue and starting the conversation about how do we support the operational needs going forward in our community that are currently unmet. And you know, obviously, Chief Womack touched on some of those this evening, and we're going to need this executive horsepower to help us with those conversations. So I don't know if I responded to all of Councilor Nordyke's questions, but I hope that's a good start.
Thank you, Mr. Staley. Councilor Nordyke.
I just want to call specifically some more attention to the budgetary impact. Can you address specifically where are we going to find the money for this specific position? Is it general fund dollars? Can you please explain how are we going to pay for the positions?
As with all of our positions in the city, they are funded by a variety of different resources. The city manager's office is generally funded by general funds, but not only funded by general funds. Our human resource department has estimated that this will cost an additional $52,000 per year for the organizational structure that we're talking about. That certainly is an amount that is well within our budgetary capacity to absorb from salary savings from departing employees and the like. So I am very confident that this is not going to stretch our budgetary capacity in going forward. And again, we'll be presenting more details for the 2023 budget as we get into that in regards to organizational structure and staffing going forward. As we start to pull things like Parks and Rec and our Center 50 Plus and our library into this new line of business that we're contemplating, you know, that may have some budgetary impacts, and we'll be discussing those in the 2023 budget process.
Councilor Leon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one additional question about the position. Do you have an estimated timeline in terms of when you would like to have this person hired?
Yesterday would be great, but given that that's probably unreasonable. My hope is that we can start the recruitment early in 2023 and have somebody on board early in 2023, in the spring of 2023, you know, by the end of March, let's say.
Thank you.
Councilor Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy, and thank you, City Manager Staley. I support the motion, and I will be voting yes for it. I guess I just want to understand with a little bit more clarity, are we just approving a pay grade, or is there some, I read the document, but maybe I'm missing it in the details of the paragraphs. Is this just like for one position, or is this approving the ability to have potentially two moving forward?
Yes, there are two deputy city manager positions being proposed. This action will, you know, basically fund those positions going forward. Organizational structure, if you will, is in my prerogative. Obviously, I have shared that with council, generally speaking, but the specifics are in my prerogative, and we are making moves. We've had those conversations at a leadership team meeting, and we're ready to start executing on those. As we roll into the 2023 budget process, you'll see the details of that. Moving the airport to Public Works, for example, is one of those things. Moving community development under urban development and forming one larger department there is another one of those things, you know, significant steps forward. as I mentioned, moving the library and Parks and Recreation and Center 50 Plus and neighborhoods and youth services and homeless response into another line of business overseen by a deputy city manager is another one of those steps. I sent you some information, specifically that outlines that in an organizational structure via email this afternoon for your information. So if you have any questions, please reach out and I can provide more details.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that, the clarifying comments. And that's what we talked about as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood this motion specifically. I guess my final comment question would be, we as the city of Salem have had an assistant or deputy city manager before, haven't we?
Yes, sir. We last had a deputy city manager in 2018, and for budgetary reasons, that position was left vacant and chosen to, the previous city manager chose to work without that position. I'm looking to go in a different direction.
Thank you. And if I may, I agree with you. I mean, I think that for me, as city councilors, we get to pick our city manager, and going through that process this spring and summer, it was very educational, and I support this move wholeheartedly. I think that the data you've cited is compelling, and then my 2 years on council, certainly I agree with this. So again, I'll be supporting this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Leung.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, on to information reports. And we'll go through these in order. Item 6A, are there any questions or comments? Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. I'm not sure who is going to be answering questions on this one. But I just wanted to know if someone could get back to me about the diversity within the collection. And I know that we have lots of different pieces. They're beautiful and wide ranging, but I am really a big advocate on people having representation in their public art. And so I was curious about the diversity within the collection and wondering if that could be some information that staff is able to get back to me and other councilors if they're so interested.
Thank you, Councilor. I see that, so we have a couple of folks who have popped on here. I'm a little bit surprised to see Mr. Martin, but maybe he knows something I don't. So I'll start with him.
I was going to suggest that we could get back to you with that information, but Keith Bondog Wynn is here and he would be the best. He may have it right now available.
Thank you.
Hi, Councilor Stapleton. You can see the City of Salem collection online on the Salem Public Arts Commission website. The GIS department created a wonderful story map with a lot of the locations of where public art is located. There are links to photos on there, as well as descriptions of the artwork.
Perfect. And do you know if the commission takes that into account when they are looking to purchase new art? I know that there's a lot of conversation about who the artist is and making sure that there's a wide diversity in the artists themselves. But I am also curious about just the representation within the art itself. And so I'm just wondering if the commission has that as maybe some kind of goal or thing that they are focused on at all.
Yes, there are certain guidelines within the public art acquisition process, as well as even accepting murals within the community. But the Public Art Commission does prioritize local Salem and Pacific Northwest artists.
Great. Thank you so much, Keith. Really helpful.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else on item 6A? Thank you, staff, for your responses to those questions. Item 6B.
Yeah.
Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. So I don't get my schedule until the first of the month, like the beginning of the month, and I'm seeing that this will be very difficult for me to squeeze in. I may be able to get some trades, but I'm capped at how many requests I can make. So it's just a comment. I want to attend. This is important. So I'll do my best to make a trade, but I don't know.
Counselor, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. We really want everyone to be there. It is so important.
I agree.
Thank you. Any other comments on 6B? Item 6D, we already did 6C. 6D, it's a planning administrative decision. Item 6E, another planning administrative decision. Councilor Leung.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Councilor Leung, Ward 4. I just wanted to make a brief comment about 6E. I don't want to pull it or anything like that. We recognize that we need housing. We need it badly, years ago and still today. But we also need housing that is affordable, housing that could be available for people who are first-time homeowners. So I really wish that this opportunity was provided affordable housing, and that there's no indication that it is. I have a feeling that it's not. That's one thing I wanted to mention. The second thing I wanted to also talk about really briefly is, it looks like in the proposal there was requests to remove quite a number of trees. It is also one that had quite a number of white oak trees, but it looks like they're trying to preserve the majority of the white oak trees, which is important since that is a significant tree here in Salem. So while I like that there's going to be more housing, I just wish it was more affordable. But I am glad that they're taking consideration with preserving the number of trees as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else on that one? All right, that finishes up our information reports. And we will move on to ordinances. We have no first readings. So we have a second reading, item 7.2A. I'll turn it over to the city reporter.
Ordinance bill number 2522, an ordinance declaring certain territory located at 3821 Ibex Street Northeast, annexed to the city of Salem, prescribing zoning and withdrawing the territory from the Marion County Fire District Number 1 and East Salem Sewer and Drainage District. Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Leung.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Item 7.2B.
Ordinance bill number 2622, an ordinance declaring certain territory located at 3880 Mahrt Avenue Southeast and land adjacent, annexed to the city of Salem, prescribing Salem Area Comprehensive Plan Map designation, for prescribing zoning and withdrawing the territory from the Marion County Fire District Number 1, Suburban East Salem Water District, and East Salem Sewer and Drainage District. Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Leung.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. That takes us to item 8, public comment. We have nobody signed up, but we are going to do something a little bit different. And we are going to have an end of year presentation. I am going to turn it over to our city manager, Keith Staley, for the 2022 year in review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is my gift to you, council members and community and staff. Obviously, I've only been here for 3 months. I can't take credit for anything in this presentation, but when you look back over the previous year, it's really amazing the amount of activity and progress and accomplishment that this organization has made. So thank you to council members and the community for that. 3 highlights that I'm personally proud of and happy for are obviously the $300 million bond approval. That's an awesome step forward for our community. But I'm also equally proud of and happy for the new housing that we're creating. Gretchen and I spent an hour this afternoon with Northwest Human Services, and the thing that they said that the city could do is to continue to provide permanent and supportive housing so that the individuals that they're working with on the street have a place to go. And then lastly, the thing that I thought was the coolest was by far the parade. The Christmas parade was just awesome. The mayor sent me pictures. I was out of town for that on that particular day, and the mayor sent me pictures, and I was frankly blown away. Just the sea of humanity in downtown. It was a beautiful thing. And without further ado, we're going to roll through these pictures, and I hope they amaze you as much as they amazed me.
Feel like we need some dramatic music for this.
I was thinking the same thing.
Next year, there'll definitely be music, even if it's me singing along.
We could all hum.
That's not.
How about some elevator music would also be awesome.
It's so amazing to see all these pictures and to know this is what this year has been like.
Mm-hmm.
It's an excellent program. Thank you so much for doing it.
Real excited about that one.
Yeah.
Can't come soon enough.
Coming soon.
This one too.
Coming very soon. Yeah. Windows are going in.
Let's not forget this one as well.
Financing is in place. Thank you to Senator Wyden and our federal delegation for finally coming soon, under construction, nearing completion. Same, under construction and nearing completion. I can't wait to be part of this come this summer. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yay.
Yes, absolutely. Those beautiful faces. I can't wait for this again.
Next year's coming.
Everybody loves the library.
The library is doing so well. Thank you.
Amen.
Center 50 plus, beautiful day. Our very own police chief.
More fresh fruit and vegetables coming.
It's awesome. Thank you, Gretchen. More ADA transition, and Brian. An awesome step forward for our community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yay, tree planting.
There's one this past Saturday.
Thank you, Chief Niblock, and our regional response. Could have been bad.
No property damage, nobody got hurt. That's amazing.
Yes, indeed. New website, always a challenge, and
Much needed.
Continuing improvements are underway.
Yay, the parade.
And look at those happy faces. All right. I think that's it.
Mr. Staley, that was awesome. Thank you so much for putting that together. I think it's really, we can all get so caught up in the day-to-day that we forget to stop and take stock. And that was really a remarkable account of the things that have gone on this past year. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And with that, thank you once again, Councilor Leon, for your service. And we are adjourned.